What's up, Ian? Your haircut
What's
looks
up, man?
your haircut looks
What's up?
good, man.
I was gonna give you a high five, but where's my?
I don't know. How do you do high five?
Oh, there's wave. How about that?
I don't see a high five.
Oh, there's not a high five.
There you go.
All right, I'll go sit down.
Can you guys tell who the high I is? There you go, dancing in the back. All right, well, hey, this is Jonathan Dupree. It's 2 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get this show rolling. So those of you guys that are standing way in the back, come on up. All you guys back here, I don't know if you're here for the disc class or if you're just hanging out in the RE Tech conference hall. Don't be shy. Come grab a seat. Robert, I'm trying to read all your names. Is that Toby? I can't see because it's hidden behind the Robert. Nick, you guys, if y'all are attending the class, come grab a seat. We're going to get started. This is Understanding Personality Styles. This is a 6-week course. I run it every single Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time here in the RE Tech Conference Hall. If you, I do have the recordings up on my Patreon page. If you don't even know what that is, don't worry. I'll post the link in just a little bit so that you'll have it and you can go back and watch the recordings. In fact, I'm pulling it up right now. I'm going to put it in the chat box if you want access to the recordings. So week one's an overview of the beginning class, and then next Wednesday we'll go through each style in more detail, but it's still kind of like all 4 styles in one session. And then the third week we cover the high D, the fourth week the high I, the fifth week the high S, and the sixth week the high C. And specifically related to selling real estate. How do you create a presentation based off of what style you're talking to? What type of closes should you use based off of who you're talking to? What kind of tie downs? All of those little subtleties that will help make you go from a good realtor or sales professional to a master realtor sales professional. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to take away the tables. I know I have you guys sitting down, but I just did that to get you guys all together for a minute. If you are here today and you would say that you are more fast-paced individual, I want you to go over here to this side. I don't know how to use a laser pointer, but I don't know, that's my left if you're looking at me, over here to this side of the room. If you're more slow paced, I want you to go over here to this side of the room. So if more fast paced and aggressive to the this side, and more slow paced and passive, I want you to come over here to this side. And those of you guys that are in the middle, pick one and come to one side. So if you're fast paced over here, if you're slow paced and more passive, come over here to this side. And come all the way over so there's not like I can visualize and see. All right, perfect. Now, this is only for my fast-paced group right now. So the rest of you guys just hang tight. If you're fast-paced and you'd say you're more task-oriented, I want you to come over here with me right here. If you say you're more task-oriented, I want you to come over here with me. If you're fast-paced and you're more task-oriented, come over here. If you're fast-paced, again, just for my fast-paced people, so you guys that are task-oriented, stay right here in this group. Jennifer is going to be our captain there. And then if you're more... if you're fast-paced and you're more people-oriented, I want you to come way over here where I'm at. So if you can see me, I'm way over here. Perfect. You guys stay right there. Okay, so now for the folks that are... So you were fast-paced and you were neither people-oriented or task-oriented, Alexander? Or maybe you're not in front of your computer. That's okay. And for those of you that someone said they're both, so you're conflicted. What do you just feel the most? How about just go with that one, and don't worry, because this isn't definitive. This is just a quick exercise, and it's how we're going to sit today. All right. So for my folks that are more slow paced and passive, if you're more task oriented, I want you to come right over here by these chairs, right over here by me. So all the slow paced and or passive individuals over there. If you're more task oriented, I want you to come over here. If you're more analytical, thought oriented, complete a task, come over here to this side where I'm at. Perfect. And if you're more people oriented, I want you to stay over here where you're at. So if you're more people oriented, this group's kind of getting fragmented. Come in close so I can tell y'all are a group. So this is where I'm at. It's going to be my folks who are more slow paced and passive, but more people oriented, relationship oriented. This side's going to be more slow paced and passive and task oriented, analytical. Okay, so you see your group. Those of you that are standing in the middle, I don't know what you are, so it doesn't matter. I'll let you just pick a table. I'm going to set some conference room tables out. I want you to sit at a table with your group. So go to, they should have enough chairs. You might have to pick 2 tables per group. But so the back corner, that's all my fast-paced and task-oriented. That's most likely our high Ds in the class. You guys grab that table. And the back corner over here, that's more fast-paced and people-oriented. Those are most likely our high Is. So I want you guys to sit as a group at a table. To my folks right here that I'm looking at, y'all are my slow-paced, passive, more people-oriented, most likely going to be our high S's. Y'all can take this table right up front here. Table C is fine. And then you guys over here are going to be our high C's, most likely, the ones that are slow paced and passive and more analytical or task oriented. So just grab this table B, and if you have to grab another table, grab the one behind it so you guys can sit as a group. I see some people just sitting in chairs. Pick a table. Go to a table. Guys that are just standing around, grab a table. You should be sitting at a table. You should be sitting with your group, unless you're just standing in front of your computer and frozen, and that's okay too. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to throw up a little privacy circle around your tables in a minute. So only the people at the table will be able to hear. You won't be able to hear the people at the other tables, only at your table. I want you to just go around the table, each person introduce themselves, share why you're here at this class, what you hope to learn from the class, and then share your level of experience or knowledge with understanding the DISC system. Just and it could be as simple as I know nothing about it. This is my first class. To I'm a certified DISC instructor and can teach this thing inside and outside. Just teach just share where you are in your knowledge with the DISC, and share one thing about you that maybe you think is interesting for everyone at the table to know. So as soon as these privacy cones go up, I'm going to give you guys about 5 to 7 minutes to do this, because there's several people at each table. And if you're just standing around, just hop in a table. Don't be afraid. Hop in a table, because you won't be able to hear anything once these circles go up unless you're in a table. And then after about 6 minutes, I'll take the silence cones away. If you're done ahead of time, just stand up. I'll be able to see. And if you guys are all done before that 6-minute mark, then I'll just go ahead and remove the privacy thing so we can start the class. So again, introduce yourself, a little bit about who you are, what you want to get out of this class, why you're here, what your knowledge is of DISC, and what's something unique about you that you think is interesting that other people would want to know. All right, go. if you're just joining us and you're not at a table, you can hop in a table, and we're doing a quick exercise. Just hop in any table. It doesn't matter which one. We're just doing a quick introduction. So hop in a table, introduce yourself. They'll walk you through the ropes. Just hop in any table, and you're introducing who you are, what you know about DISC, what you hope to gain out of the class, and something unique about yourself.
Hey, sorry, I didn't quite hear you because I was in the...
No worries. Just hop into one of the tables. It doesn't matter which one, and there you're introducing yourself, who you are, a little bit about you, what your knowledge is of DISC, and what you hope to gain out of the class, and just something unique about yourself. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which table you're at right now.
How's everything? And
doesn't work for us.
Like the last couple weeks.
Oh, Brandon, looks like we're done.
We've got about 1 more minute. So if you're not finished, I just giving you a quick heads up. All right, so let's wrap up.
Awesome. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
So
Nice to meet both of you. Okay.
So let's do this. And if you guys will mute your microphones for me real quick. Perfect. Thank you so much. And then you can unmute as we share. But I'd love to know just a couple of things that you guys got out of what did you hear people wanted to learn from today for this to be valuable? What are some of the things that you guys said, or what are some of the things that you guys heard? Laura?
Yes, I'm pretty new, but I think we all are in the same page of learning how to communicate with different personalities, people that are very analytical, where you have to bring them all the numbers and everything because they're very straightforward, or people that are just very social and they just want to hear all the good things and be motivated. Yes, so we want to learn how to identify them.
Okay, perfect. Don, do you want to share what you just typed so people can hear it, or you want me to just read it?
Oh gosh, nobody heard me?
No, we heard you. We all heard you. I just saw someone type something else in. I didn't know if they wanted to share it or not.
Oh, okay, sorry.
One group said that their group, Ian and him, wanted to learn how to use the DISC for recruiting other agents. And someone else said, being top of mind in this information here for the same reason. Want to be top of mind. So anyone else want to share what you heard or what you want to get out of learning about DISC?
I think several people also want to understand themselves better.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if we could understand why we do what we do and how we react, the way that we react in certain situations. And when you can understand yourself and you have self-awareness into the picture, self-discovery, you can then change and become, and I say change, you can then course correct and not only course correct, you can be aware of who you are so that in certain situations, when you understand who you are and you understand personality styles, and you understand who someone else is, then you can have better interactions with people. You can communicate better, whether it's recruiting or getting a listing or a buyer. It's all the same stuff. It's having conversations with people. I always tell people, talk to people, get a check. Don't talk to them, don't get a check. That's true in real estate as well as in recruiting agents, whatever it is. So the way I'm going to start today, I can't play a video into here and y'all hear the video. So I'm just going to let you hear the audio. And this is about a 5-minute video that's going to open up and it's a good overview of DISC. I'm a certified DISC instructor through a company called People Keys. And Tony Robbins offers a free DISC assessment. And one of the tools that you should do if you haven't already is take a DISC assessment. And while you're listening to this video, you can literally go right on and take your DISC assessment. I'm going to post the link here in the chat box, and you can go take it. It doesn't take long to take it all. And we're going to talk about each style in just a minute and how to understand personality styles, where DISC came from. But I'm going to play this quick audio bite into the class, and I think it's one of the best overviews about DISC.
People are different. People are different, but they are predictably different. Do you believe that people are different? How many of you guys believe that people are different? Yes, of course, people are all different. How many of you believe that we can predict how someone will act or react in a given environment? Let me show you how we do that. In the general population, there are 4 types of people, and we call them dominant, or the D style, influencing, or the I style, stable, or steady, which is the S style, and then the C style is the compliant style. And those are the people that make up our world. And you see those people all the time. You see those people all the time. If you've ever walked up to an elevator and saw the guy that presses the button and then steps back and looks at the button again, and then he presses it, and then he taps it or holds it, because he thinks that as he presses that, the elevator must surely arrive faster, that is the D personality style. Dominant, direct, they're drivers. They want to control their environment. They want to do something to make something happen in their world. And so they will keep their thumb on that button until the elevator comes. Now, once the doors open and everyone walks in and they close, the one guy that turns around and starts talking to people, the guy that's smiling because once the doors close, he knows he has a captive audience, that is the I personality style. They're the influencers. They're the ones when the door opens, he goes, boom, 3rd floor, lingerie, enjoy your day. Those are the I's. Now the S personality style, they're stable, steady. They're very relational. They are people. Now they're the people that if the door's starting to close, but there's somebody that may or may not be wanting to get on the elevator, they'll stick their hand out. There's plenty of room. Come on in. Come on in. Now the D is back there going, oh, come on, man. I gotta go. Like, why are you waiting? And the yes is holding the door open. And if there's too many people, they'll say, you know what, I'll just take the stairs. So they'll get out, let somebody else go. You go on, it's okay. That's that S personality style. Very stable, steady. Now, the C's. The C personality style is the guy that's very quiet, off to the side, and he's standing there looking at the plaque that says maximum weight, 3,700 pounds. And he's calculating body weight. He's going, if one person gets on, I'm off. Like that's the guy. He's the guy that notices when the inspection date is due on the elevator. So those are the 4 personality styles. Now, D's make up about 3% of the population. 3%. Do you know why? Because any more than 3% and we would be at war all the time. So God in his wisdom said, we need those D's, we need those drivers, but let's keep them down to about 3% of the population. I's are about 11% of the population. And I's are fun to have around, but any more than 11% of the population, we would never get anything done. S's make up 69% of the population. They are the majority of people that you're going to be dealing with. Very stable, steady. Another S word for you, status quo. They like things the way things are right now. They make up 69% of the population. C's, what percent of the population would C's be? Okay, the person that said 17%, that person's a C. Do you know why? Because they did the math. They added it up and subtracted from it, oh, 17. So there's the C. That's the C style. That's the C personality style. But it's important to know these personality styles. It's important to know, first of all, for you, what blend of those styles, because those blends are all in us. Any one of us can be any one of those styles. How many of you believe that your personality style can change based on your environment? Yeah, that's right. You know what? Your car is your environment. And so people who are very easygoing, very stable, steady, laid back, sometimes they get behind the wheel, they turn into a D. And then as soon as they lock the door, doot, doot, they're back to their, hi, how's everything? And so you see these people change their styles in the car. When you start to merge, the guy that gets in front or won't let you through, that's the D. That's the D style. He will take a dent before he lets you in front of him. He's like, I'll take the dent. You will, no. That's the D personality style. Now the I is the guy that's trying to get in because he didn't realize that they were merging. Do you know why? Because he's talking and, he's singing a song. He's looking, he's like, hey, that was a good song. Last time I was down here, I remember there's a great radio. Oh, darn, I got to merge. That's the I. And he's waving. Hey, can I come in? Hey, can I come in? Hey, can I come in? Now the S personality style, they're the people that eventually will let you in. And they're like, this isn't right, but look at that guy. He's obviously from out of town. All right, I'll let you in. Now that percentage of people probably goes down as construction goes up. Now the C's are rarely in that situation. You know why? Because those are the people that have planned their route. Well, you have to leave a half hour early because you're going to want to make sure you do that. So those are the personality styles. So people are different. They are predictably different.
So that's a phenomenal video. And if you want to look it up, it's just type in YouTube people keys. People are different. And it's really good, but a good overview of the DISC assessment. Let me pull up this presentation real quick for you. If you can't see it on the screen, click the refresh button up at the top of your screen, and you'll be able to, it should refresh and pull up the presentation for you guys. So the same company that just created the video created the presentation that I'm about to share with you. And the main thing for you to take away is that people are different, but they're predictably different. And so if you can understand how to read people and predict human behavior, you can adapt your buyer consultation, your listing presentation, your recruiting presentation, your dialogue, your conversation that you're having to that person so that they hear what you're saying. And the goal in this is where you begin to have conversations with people, and when you leave, they go, I just don't know what it is, but there was something about that person. I just connected with them. I want to do business with them. I want them to be my agent. I want them to list my home. I want them to help me buy a new home. I want to work with them and them to be my sponsor, whatever it is. I mean, they just leave and you feel like there's this connection. And so it's important to know there are the 4 styles, and I'm just going to briefly touch on these because you just heard it in the video. But you have the high D, the high I, the high S, and the high C. We all have a blend of this. So when you take your DISC assessment, it's going to show you your natural style, and then it's going to show you your adaptive style. Your natural style is how you are when you're around everyday normal people who know you and like you and you trust them and you're yourself. Your adaptive style is maybe when you're around clients or at work and you are operating how you think people think you should behave. And we're going to talk about each one of these briefly, but your high D is dominant. 3% of the population are your high Ds. I am a high D. You'll see these graphs, and we're going to talk in a minute about what those graphs measure. But I'm a high D followed by a high I. Your high I's are influencers. 11% of the population are high I's. Your high D comes to an event and says, give me the stuff. What's the information I need so I can do this? The high I is like, who am I going to see at this event? Where are we going to go afterwards? Are we going to hang out and go do something? The high S's are very, very stable, steady. They're cautious. 69% of the population are your high S's. They're the ones who are like, oh, you didn't get a notebook for the class? Take mine. Your high C's are very compliant. 17% of the population are your high C's. They're going to be a rule follower, do things by the book. If you skip page 3 or slide 3, they're going to go, what was on that slide? It was important. Why'd you go to slide 5 before 3 and 4? That's your high C's. Now, there is no correct style. Understand that. There's no right or wrong style. For years, I've taught this, and for some reason, realtors run around and they want to always talk about how they're a high D or whatever. Like that's a drive, like that's the best style to be a realtor. And there is no best style. We all have a blend of all of these styles in who we are as a person. So it's important to understand them and then learn how to adapt in your conversation to every time. I was just at an event with someone who's a high C, and they got up to speak and they blew me away. Best speaker of the event I was at in Phoenix, and they talked about how their first year in real estate, nobody, even their family, said, you're just probably getting a good idea. You don't like to talk to people. You're introverted. And he sold like 60 homes his first year in real estate. So it doesn't, there is no right or wrong style. I want to make sure that you understand that. It's important to understand this has been around for a long time. In the beginning, they talked about earth, air, fire, and water and compared those to different personality styles, how people operated. Then it was fluids in the body that they used to talk about how people were, what their personalities were. Then it became thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. And then today, to get DISC how we have it today, Dr. William Martinson, he wrote a book. You might want to pick it up. You can still order it. It's called The Emotions of Normal People, and he is the father of DISC. And that's where he said, there's really a dominant style, like a driving style, an influencing style, steady and compliant. And that's where we came up with DISC today. It's also important, I think, for you to know the 3 contributing factors to your behavioral style. The first is heredity, role models, and experiences. So you really gain your personality from those 3 areas. And it's important to understand the experiences that you've had help shape you. The role models that you've had who've poured into you have helped shape you, and just who you are as a person. This trust model is a really unique part. It's really not part of the DISC, but we've added it to this presentation because we're talking about dealing with people and interacting with people and human behaviors. And what I like about the trust model is when you can get master this and you can get to discover the potential of people, you really build great relationships. And you have 4 areas. The first is the arena, and the arena is open communication. It says, I know and you know. So the arena is like things about you that you're okay with people knowing, and they just know it already. They've been to your Facebook and see something about you. They know you're a realtor. I know this and you know this. That's the arena, open communication. Blind spots are, I don't know this, but you know this. And this is where self-discovery comes in. And if you have someone that you trust who helps bring up a blind spot, you might be more open to self-discovery and say, you know what, you are correct. I wasn't aware that I was behaving like that. Now, if someone I don't know comes up to me and tries to point out a blind spot, I'm probably not going to be so quick to listen and tweak or change that versus if my wife comes up to me. A perfect example, my youngest son, Jaden, he was really sick one time. I didn't know he was really sick. His stomach was hurting him. We went to dinner. He threw up. He kept talking about his side hurting. We went to the grocery store. He threw up again. He's telling me how bad he feels. And I just stopped and I said, look, I need you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're in intense pain, get me to the hospital now. 1 meaning I can go home, I'm okay. Where are you? And he looked at me about to cry and he said, I'm a 7, but we can go home. I'll be okay. And my wife said, listen, you need to be more sensitive right now. It wasn't that I didn't care about my son or love my son, or it was a high D, fast-paced, aggressive, and they're constantly trying to figure out a solution to the problem. And so I was trying to analyze what was happening, task-oriented. Remember, they're fast-paced, aggressive, and task-oriented. What was the task? Finding out that I need to get my son to the hospital because it's Sunday night, nothing else is open, or is he going to be okay? My wife pointed out, hey, here's a blind spot. You need to be more sensitive when you're talking to your son. You teach this stuff all over the country to people. You need to act it out here. You need to be more sensitive to him. You need to adapt when you're talking to him. And that was a blind spot. I was open to self-discovery and going, you know what? I do. And that's when I really began to master DISC, when that situation happened for me. It's when I really began to study this and go, how do I adapt? I had multiple people, friends of mine, that would tell me, you're very intimidating when I talk to you. And I don't try to be intimidating. You're a friend of mine. I like you a lot. But I'm also result oriented and we need to get this done, or we need to handle it. And they were friends of mine who worked for me. So I was open to self-discovery in those areas. That's the blind spots. If you trust someone, you're going to be open to self-discovery. Then we have the mask, and that's the area that we hide. And we say, I know this about me, but you don't know it about me because I don't trust you enough yet to let you in my world and know this about me. And then we have the potential, and that's the unknown. I don't know, and you don't know. And so what you want to know is that what you see is the arena and the mask, open communication and what we hide, the hidden. And then what others are going to see is the arena, open communication, and the blind spots that are there that we're maybe not aware of. And your goal is to be in open communication, because when you're in open communication, it prepares you for the potential, the unknown. And so I just wanted to throw in that trust model with you so that you could see. It's also really easy to identify where people are without having them take an assessment, just by, in the beginning, you saw we did a quick exercise. And I said, if you're active or fast paced, go to one side. Well, your actives are going to be your high Ds and your high Is. And then your passives go over here. Well, if you're more slower paced and passive, that's going to be your high S's and your high C's. Then you look at your task-oriented. That's going to be your high Ds and high Cs. They're focused on completing the task, getting it done. And then your high Is and S's, they're more people-oriented. They're focused on building the relationship. This doesn't mean that a high D and a high C can't build great relationships with people. Please understand that. I feel like I do a phenomenal job at building relationships with people, and I'm a high D. But until I mastered this, I also did a great job of leaving a lot of roadkill and running over people because I was too intimidating, and it wasn't trying to be like that. I was just coming across very blunt and aggressive, and that's just how I was. And I had to learn, that's a blind spot, and learn how to adapt when I was around other people. Now, your high Ds are going to be active and task oriented. Your high Is are going to be active and people oriented. Your high S's are going to be people-oriented and passive, or slower paced, and your high C's are going to be passive and task-oriented. So a great way to remember that is just active and passive, task or people. And if you can figure that out, you know kind of where they fit on this quadrant. It's not always going to be spot on, but you're not going to sit down with somebody and say, hey, I need you to take this 20-minute assessment so I can see what type of behavioral style you are before I talk about listing your home tonight. But you can pick up some subtle clues. You can look around their house. You can listen to them. If they're talking really fast and they're talking more aggressive tone, like, hey, let's just get right down to the numbers. What do you think we can do? Probably a high D. If they're telling me a story about how they love living here and they've lived here for so long, in fact, they grew up here and they were the high school quarterback, and they tell me all these stories and they pat me on the back while they're doing it, probably a high I. If they're talking a little bit softer and slower and they're asking me, do they want, I made some coffee and I made an apple pie because you were coming. Do you want a piece of pie and some coffee? Probably a higher S. If they're more slower paced and maybe they're not quite looking me in the eye when we're talking and they're asking me a lot of factual questions and talking a lot about statistics and maybe they even say something like, I printed up what the homes had sold in my area and figured out the average price per square foot here. And I'm just curious, what do you think? What did you come up with that my house is worth? Probably a high C if they're doing that. So you can pick up those cues just from talking to them. We're going to break down each style today. The style characteristics of the high D, they're active, positive, and an antagonistic environment. They work well in chaos, but if we're not careful, once we solve a problem, we'll go create more chaos because we thrive in chaos. The high ego strength, they seek authority. They are impatient. They want it done now. So if you're working with a high D, you need to know that, and you need to set some expectations on the front end, and don't be afraid to take control, because if you don't take control of the conversation, they'll dominate the conversation, and they might even see you as weak, and they'll run right over you. So you want to be able to communicate with them at the same level that they're communicating back with you, where you can mirror and match. Their greatest fear, this is a big one, is being taken advantage of. Anytime people talk to me about something, I always just naturally, I just come from a place of skepticism when I'm listening to them talk. I had people talk to me about EXP forever. I was skeptical about it for a long time because the greatest fear a high D has is being taken advantage of. They desire change. They're constantly changing, and they can do many things at one time. They can multitask. Although they might not be great at it, they've got many things going on, or they've got lots of little different businesses going on and happening, or they're spinning lots of plates. And they respond to direct confrontation. I have friends that joke with me, and they say that my nickname is Captain Justice because if somebody brings some confrontation, I'm not afraid to bring it right back. I'll respond to that right away. In fact, there's someone in the room today. I was sharing a story yesterday about how I had a awkward moment of direct confrontation with an agent yesterday, and the high D is they're not afraid to respond to direct confrontation. The D measures how a person solves problems and responds to challenges. That's what it measures. So when you take a DISC assessment, you'll see these bar graphs that show how high the D is, how high the S, how high the I, the S, and the C. And then you see a midpoint that's like 0, a midline. The higher above that midpoint or that baseline, the more active and aggressive you're going to be on the high D. That's what it's measuring. The lower it is below that midline, then the more contemplative you're going to be. And that's what it's measuring. The antagonized response for the high D is aggressive, and the emotion that it measures is anger. So you'll hear people say the high D is someone who's quick to anger. Just because we get frustrated easier, we're impatient. The high Ds. Raise your hand, you guys that are high Ds. Just be real. You're impatient and you can get frustrated, and someone's telling you a story and they're a high I and they're like drawing that thing out, and you're going, can you paint the story with a bigger paintbrush, please? This is get to the point. Where are we? What's happening? It's just that's that high D characteristic. Some of their strengths. I'm not going to read through all of these, but this presentation is being recorded, but I'm going to share just the main ones that I think are important. They're very strong-willed. They're very productive. They can make great decisions quickly. They're decisive. They don't think a long time about what to do. They're visionary. They're that born leader type person. They must correct wrongs. That's back to responding to confrontation. My friends always joke and call me Captain Justice. I was driving in the car. Noah was with me. This was a couple of years ago, and I had one of those wallets that like it flipped open and then the ID part flipped up. And this guy was driving like road rage, and he almost hit this lady. And so I pulled up next to him, and I told him to slow down, and he extended a finger to me, and I was like, oh no. And then he took off and almost hit someone else. I pulled down again. I said, roll down your window. And he just looked at me, and I grabbed my wallet. I'm not telling you this is the right thing to do. I grabbed my wallet and I opened it, and then I flipped open that other ID part, and I said, roll your window down. And he stopped in his tracks and turned white as he could be, and he rolled down his window and he said, I'm so sorry, sir. And I said, slow it down. Well, that's that high D, must correct the wrongs. My son said, you just acted like you were a police officer. I said, no, I didn't. I never once acted like I was a police officer. I just showed him my driver's license and told him to roll down his window. That's the high D style. Now, some limitations that you need to be aware of. Doesn't mean you do this, just you need to be aware of. We can come across cruel and sarcastic. We can be unforgiving. We can come across as insensitive or inconsiderate to others, or unsympathetic and cold. I shared the story about my son. I love my son. I wasn't trying to be cold or unsympathetic at all. I was trying to solve a problem. We could come across as proud. We can't relax. For some of you high Ds, you can relate with what I'm about to say. I told my wife last night, I just don't know how to relax. I just don't know how to shut my mind off sometimes. They won't give up when they're losing. They're just going to keep moving forward. So just be aware of that. Some relational characteristics. They're experts at leadership. They establish goals. They motivate people to take action. They have little need for friends. I literally shared with a group the other day. I said, I think maybe like on my Facebook, I have, I don't remember what the maximum amount is that you can't take new friends, but I'm there, and only probably 10 of them are people that I really think these are friends of mine, so the high D doesn't have this need to have a ton of friends in their world. Limitations. They tend to over-dominate. They can be too busy sometimes for family. They're constantly working. They're impatient with poor performance, don't really know how to say I'm sorry. They could be possessive. They tend to over-dominate. Occupational characteristics, they're goal-oriented. They can see the whole picture. They seek practical solutions and move quickly to action. They're great at delegating out, and they thrive in opposition. Some of the limitations in that, there's a low tolerance for error. They don't analyze all the details. They just don't. They're bored by trivia. They're rash decision makers. The other night, I went to Las Vegas. I booked my flight at Tuesday at 9 p.m. I flew out at Wednesday at 4 a.m. in the morning. I mean, there was literally a last minute. I had no idea where I was going to stay. I got to the resort where the event was. It was sold out. There weren't any rooms left. Noah, my son, called me about 10:30 that night, and he said, where are you staying? I said, I have no idea. I literally flew there with a backpack on and had no idea where I was going to stay. We were 30 minutes off of the strip. I said, I'll just walk around the strip for a while and go back to the airport. I ended up getting an amazing suite, but that's just the mindset. Rash to make a quick decision and really don't have a lot of details for it and don't think it through. What tells you that, though, is if you're working with a high D and you can tell when you initiate the conversation, maybe they're a lead that comes through your website and you can tell they're a high D. I mean, you can get them to make a quick decision. That's a good thing. Like, they'll make quick decisions. And if you can get them in action right away, they'll work with a sense of urgency. Your high I, they're going to be active. They work more in a friendly environment than the high D does. They're emotional people. They're very people oriented, and therefore their greatest fear is rejection. That's their biggest fear. These people are going to reject me. They're not going to like me. They're not going to want to work with me. They're disorganized, but they're very optimistic, and they're very encouraging. The I on that graph, so if you go back to the graph in your DISC assessment, measures how a person attempts to influence others. And the higher that graph is above the midpoint, the more verbal and persuasive you will be. The lower it is below that, the more nonverbal and reserved you'll be. That's what the I is measuring in the DISC assessment. The antagonized response is to negotiate, and their emotional, the emotion that's measured is optimism. How optimistic is this person? Again, the higher the I, the more optimistic. The lower the I, the less optimistic. Some of the key strengths: they're outgoing and charismatic, warm and friendly. They're talkative, the life of the party. They're great on stage. Some of the limitations: they can be undisciplined. They're restless. They're disorganized. They can be unproductive because they're more focused at talking and hanging out with people. They exaggerate. They can be compulsive talkers. They can start taking over a conversation and dominate it. And you got to figure out, if you're the high I, you got to understand how to tone it down and how to stop the conversation. And if you're working with one, you got to figure out how to get them back on track. If you're a high I, scripts and dialogues will greatly help you to stay on track and not chase that rabbit trail. Some of their relational characteristics: they're liked by their children's friends. They can turn any kind of disaster into humor. They thrive on compliments. They apologize quickly because their greatest fear is rejection. They want to build great relationships with people. Some of the limitations: they keep their home in a frenzy. They're disorganized. They're forgetful. They don't listen to the whole story. They only catch bits and pieces of it. They need to be the center stage, and they can tend to make excuses. Occupational characteristics for them: the strengths: they're constantly volunteering. They look great on the surface. They're creative and colorful. They think of new activities. They've got a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So if you're talking to someone who's an II and they're just like that bubbly, energetic personality, and they pat you on the shoulder when you come in and they're smiling and they're talking fast, probably a high I. Limitations: they'd rather talk than work. They can forget their obligations sometimes. They don't follow through. They're undisciplined. They can get their priorities out of order. Hey, today I'm going to go lead generate, and someone calls and says, "You want to go grab coffee at Starbucks?" Yes, I'd love to do that. Oh my gosh, I hadn't seen you forever. I'd love to catch up. And well, that's not the priority. The priority is to grow your business. And so they can get their priorities sometimes out of order. The high S. We have 2 more styles, and I've got about 13 more minutes. So we'll get through this and have enough time to answer any questions at the end. They are, the high S is passive aggressive in a favorable environment. They're loyal. They're a gentle team player. They're a person of substance. Their greatest fear is loss of security. So when you're working with a high S, you want to communicate constantly, and you want to make them feel like everything is okay. They don't like change. They have a high level of trust, though. When you connect with a high S and you gain their trust, they will be loyal. They'll be great advocates for you. For those of you that said, how can I be top of mind? Get you some high S's in your world, give you testimonials. They will be your greatest source of referrals. They resist change and they adapt slowly. So what the S measures in this graph, in the DISC assessment, is a pace at which a person undertakes activities and responsibilities. The higher the S, the more that person's going to resist change and be slow-paced. The lower the S, the more that person's going to be flexible and fast-paced. They're going to be okay with change. My wife is a high S. I'm a high D followed by a high I. My wife is a high S followed by a high C. So she's very people-oriented, but she's also analytical. She was a math major in college. She was in the part of the class that allowed me to be in the bottom part of the class. You know, she graduated college in the top of her class. She was a valedictorian. She's brilliant, very thought-oriented, analytical, and very much wants security. So when we folded in and rolled in our brokerage that I had built into EXP, there was a lot of change, and it made her uncomfortable. And there was a lot of rejection from agents who were friends of ours, and it was hurtful. And just the high S resists that change, and it makes them very uncomfortable. So just know that's what it measures. Some of the strengths: they're very likable, efficient, they're organized. Man, they're the most dependable people you'll ever meet. They're a reluctant leader, meaning they have all the skill sets to be a great leader, but they don't crave the spotlight. They'd love to be behind someone, supporting them and helping them. They have a low-key personality. They're easygoing. They're sympathetic. They're kind. They can keep their emotions hidden. Some of the limitations, they can be a spectator when they have the ability to be a leader. They can be indecisive and fearful because they don't want to risk that security. They can be unenthusiastic, or they can avoid responsibility. If you're working with a high S, you want to make them feel like the decision's theirs too. And you want to constantly remind them, talking in a soft, caring voice, of how this is a great move for them because they fear change. They make a good parent. They don't get upset easy. They're great listeners. Again, some of the relational limitations: undisciplined. They don't organize their home. They can stay uninvolved. They're indifferent to plans. They judge others. They can come across as sarcastic or teasing. Some of their occupational characteristics: they're competent, they're steady, they're peaceful, agreeable. They can mediate problems. They avoid conflict at all costs. They're really good under pressure, and they're always going to find the easier way. Not because they're lazy, they're just smart. They're going to find the easier way to get something done. Limitations: they're not very goal-oriented. They lack self-motivation. They resent being pushed, and they can come across as an observer instead of a leader. And then finally, the high C. The high C is very cautious, tentative. They like to, they're the perfectionist. They're very sensitive. Their greatest fear is criticism because they're a perfectionist. They do everything right, and you just criticize their work, and it's spot on. They're very accurate. They're going to ask you lots of questions, and they are going to require details. So if you're meeting with a high C, you better be prepared. The high C measures, the C in the graph measures how a person responds to the rules and regulations set by others. The higher the C, the more they're going to comply with the rules. The lower the C, the more they're going to seek independence. The antagonized response is passive, and the emotion measured is fear. And then here are some behavioral tendencies. They're analytical and idealistic. They're a perfectionist, sometimes to the point that they never do anything because they're constantly perfecting what they're going to do. I need to get this system down to a T before I do anything. And we all know you don't want to experience paralysis by analysis, where you analyze everything before you do anything. They're sensitive. They're self-disciplined. They're genius prone. They are artistic or musically gifted. You know, my wife, again, she plays the violin. She played in the orchestra. Super smart, very self-disciplined, extremely loyal. We've been married 23 years. She's my best friend. But yet, sometimes they can come across, that's not her, so I'm not going there, moody and negative, critical, self-centered, revengeful, unsociable. They could come across as having selective hearing, and sometimes maybe introspective. Some of the relational strengths: they set high standards. They want everything done right. They sacrifice their own will. They make friends cautiously, very slow to make friends. They're content to stay in the background. They don't want to draw attention. Limitations: they can sometimes have unrealistic goals. They're perfectionists. They think it all through. They can be too meticulous, though. They live their life through others. They can be critical and unforgiving, and they can hold back affection. So that's really important to be aware of those limitations. And then occupational characteristics. Their strengths: they're very schedule-oriented. They're perfectionists. They have high standards. They're detail-oriented. They're persistent. They're very orderly. They're very organized. They'll find the most creative solutions. They like to finish what they start. They love charts and graphs and figures. Some of the limitations are they're not very people-oriented. They're depressed over imperfections. They beat themselves up. They're too hard on themselves. They're hesitant to start a project because they want it done perfect. And they don't want to delegate because no one else is going to do it as good as they will. They prefer I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. They spend too much time planning. They like to analyze their work. They're hard to please. They can set unrealistic goals, and they have a deep need for approval. So it's important for you to understand those styles. And the last thing I'll share with you, and we'll pick this up next week, is your high Ds are instinctive leaders. They're self-reliant. They're innovative at getting results. They maintain focus on goals. The high Is are instinctive communicators. They're participative. They motivate everybody. They're spontaneous and agreeable. They respond well to the unexpected. The high S's are instinctive relators. They're participative. They make others feel like they belong. They show sincerity. They can see an easier way to do things. And then your high C's are instinctive organizers. They're the do-it-yourself manager. You don't have to worry about them. They strive for logic and consistency. They control the details, and they're very conscientious. So it's important to know each of these styles and to learn them, and then to master how to figure out where someone is on this map so that you can have better conversations with them. Next week, we're going to break down each style one-on-one. We'll break them down a little bit further, and then the next 4 weeks we'll go each style specifically related to how you interact with that person to sell real estate. I do have a poem I'd like to share. It's in the 7 levels of communication. I think Michael Hyatt maybe is who wrote that. I could be wrong on the author. But it says, sell like everyone's a D, smile like everyone's a I, care like everyone's a S, prepare like everyone is a C. And it's a really, really good little poem. And I had a picture of it. I'll see if I can find it while I open it up for questions. So you guys have any questions or comments for me before we wrap up today? We've got about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Hi, I have a question about when the adaptive style is higher than the natural.
Okay. So all that's saying is, like, let's just say in a natural style, your I is higher than your D. But in the adaptive style, your D is higher than your I. All that's saying is that's how you adapt when you're in that work environment. You would tend to be more fast-paced and aggressive because you feel like that's the behavior that's expected from you at work or when you're around clients than being the more bubbly people person that you normally are. Just like how that video that I played in shared about how people you can change when you're driving a car. You know, you could be a high S normally, and then you get behind the wheel and you become a high D. That's adapting. You're adapting your style. Does that make sense?
Yep. I'm just wondering because the opposite with my D, it's 5610. So I'm thinking, I know a lot of, I'm sorry, but a lot of guys, if I'm too direct, they think, wow, who does she think she is? And, you know, so I always tone it down when I'm out there in the world because I perceive that my explanation for something or the way I relate is like offensive to some guys, like they're insecure. So I'm like a 50/10, and I hate to see that in a column. Like I want to live out the 56/56 if I could, but I just feel like I can't do that in the earth here.
So some of that could also be back to that trust model that we talked about in the beginning, and that could potentially, what you just said, be a blind spot. You know, guys, I can't act this way around guys because they perceive this, and the reality is certain guys do and certain guys don't, and certain women would and certain women wouldn't, because they all have different personality styles. So that could be back to the belief window deal. We see the world through our filter, how we look through it. And send me your DISC assessment. shoot it over to me so I can see what you're talking about.
It's in disc on
Okay,
the work.
perfect. Who's talking? Because I didn't see. Is it
Lynn.
Lynn? Okay, perfect. I will go
Lynn
pull
Lapper.
it up. I see it right now. I'm writing it down.
Uh-oh.
No, not in a bad way. All right, what else? We got time for a couple more questions. Any other questions that you guys have?
Hey, Jonathan, I'm back here, Barbara.
Hey, Barbara.
Hi, could you please say again that wonderful thing, care like everyone's an S and something about the other ones?
Yes, absolutely. So it's, and I'm trying to find it because I have it as a picture.
That graphic is posted in the workplace.
Yeah, I posted it too in Real Estate 101, but I to try to go find it, it might be hard for someone to go find it real quick. But it basically is sell like everyone's a D, smile like everyone's a I, care like everyone's a S, prepare like everybody is a C.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I know where
So John,
Yep, go ahead.
Position yourself whenever you have conversations with people. Obviously, you're kind of categorizing them by asking them questions, but I guess my question would be something like, how can you, because whenever you're having conversations with people, it's either sell or be sold, right? So if you're trying to close someone on a presentation, how do you leverage this to your advantage to be able to, get what you want, get that agreement signed, get that yes?
Yeah, so I think it's in your process. Like I'm about to go meet an agent right now for to help her see the light and move from my former franchise to EXP. And she asked me to meet and sit down. So the first part of what I'm going to do is just talking to her. And I don't know her. I've never met her. Today will be the first day. But through meeting her, I'll ask her a set of questions and I'll observe her behavior and I'll quickly be able to tell where she's at, and I'll begin to ask some certain questions and think back to behaviors predictable. I know if she's a high I, she's very relational, and I'll talk about how many people I've met all over the country at EXP through the world and how it's been a great connector for me. And like I'll begin to speak her language.
Gotcha.
And that's the key. But you don't know that if you just sit down and you're a high D and they're a high S and they're like, hey, Ian, do you want me to get you some coffee? And you're like, nope, look, I got about 30 minutes and here's the presentation. Let's sit down and get right into it. And they might even look at it and shake their head while they're talking to you. And the whole time they're going, why didn't they even want to talk? Why didn't they want this cup of coffee I was going to get for them? Why are they so aggressive? And you're going, I got 30 minutes and I got 5 more appointments today. We need to get through that. You see what I'm saying? But if I'm a high, if I'm a high S, I'm a high I and I got 30, and this is a high D and they've got 30 minutes because I told them we're going to meet for 30 minutes and I take 15 of it telling them stories. They're like, what is going on here? I thought I was here to get some information. So you can tell who you're with and then adapt to their style and communicate based in a way that's going to connect with them.
Perfect. Got some studying to do.
There's a lot of great tools. I would pick up the book Emotions of Normal People by William Martinson. That's a great one to pick up. And then the next several classes are going to be really break this stuff down to how do you present to a high D, high I, a high S, a high C, closes that work for each style better, questions that they'll say so you can, or phrases that you might hear them say to tip you off to what style they are, phrases that you should say to them. So it kind of really breaks down each style for you. So I would encourage you guys to come over the next 5 weeks. It's a total of 6 weeks counting today, but the next 5 weeks is going to be really good stuff. All right. Hey, we got time for one more question and then I have to go.
Jonathan, can we get the slide presentation?
Yes, the slide presentation is on Patreon, which I'll repost that again. And then I heard someone else asking a question too. So while I'm pulling up where you can get the slides at, I'll let, I couldn't see who was talking, but you'll know who you were.
It was me. I heard you say the name of a book, but I couldn't write it down quick enough. What was the book?
The Emotions of Normal People. And it's by William Martinson. You're not going to find it in the bookstore. It's going to be one of those that you're going to have to order on Amazon. And then I just posted a link. That's where all my recordings go. And then there's also some other cool stuff on there as well. And then every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time in the auditorium, I teach a class called Real Estate 101. And it's a great class to come into. It's the fundamentals of building a successful real estate business. It's not just for new agents. And we've got about 220 to 250 agents that attend that every week. So we'd love for you to join us on Sunday nights as well. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me a message via Workplace. I love talking about DISC. This is a great tool to bring in if you're building real estate teams or building revenue share teams and you want to learn each person in your organization and how to communicate with them. It's such a great tool for you to have and a great skill set for you to learn. So, hey, thank you guys. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.